The Gulikit KingKong 2 Pro is a controller that ticks a lot of boxes. It's a better version of the Switch Pro controller, with all the features and more. It wants to be the best Android controller with native support for a couple of conflicting games. Also, a Windows controller compatible with everything. And mainly, it wants you to forget about drift, with new technology and better features than the competition.
While it comes from a relatively new company, it is not just a demonstration of what they can do. It's a controller that highlights how well things can be done if one focuses. One of the most complete controllers on the market. Let's see why. Welcome back. I'm Claudio, and this is Zero to Tech. Let's do a quick background check because you may have never seen a Gulikit controller. But it's a company that is revolutionizing controllers, thanks to its Hall effect technology. With it, sticks and triggers use magnets to measure the position without any physical contact. This fixes the drift issue and makes the sticks much more precise.
And with such good technology, it's nice that they have not been close to other companies. They have worked with 8-bit 2 on their new Ultimate series. They also have a stick upgrade for the Steam Deck, and we have seen them on the channel in the AI Neo Next review. Just to mention a few collaborations. The KingKong Pro 2 brings together Gulikit's best technologies. It's a cross-platform controller for Android, Windows, iOS and Switch, and does it very well. It comes in a well-designed cardboard box with a picture of the controller on top. Since most of the controllers go with black, I decided for the white one. We open it to see the first surprise. The controller comes with a plastic protection case, which will make a lot of sense to anyone who have traveled with a controller on a backpack. It protects the sticks and the buttons very well. Then, we have a small box filled with just a USB-C cable. At least, it has decent quality. We also have a stamp with the logo, the manual, and advertising for its products. The overall design is almost identical to the Xbox, with the sticks and buttons in the same position. But this comes with the Nintendo BAYX layout, and the top buttons are marked as R, ZR, L and ZL. But unlike the Pro controller, ZL and ZR are analog, for the platforms that support it. In front, we have the start and select with the plus and minus signs. It also has the home and capture button and two additional buttons, one with a gear icon and one with two squares. These are used for the additional functions and use membrane. There are no additional buttons on the back. The ergonomics are perfect, with plenty of room in the back to put your fingers, and the handles with a bit of texture to improve grip. As I said, almost identical to the Xbox controller. On top, we have the USB-C port, which charges the battery that lasts about 25 hours. There are 4 LEDs on one side for the connection mode, each with its own icon, and a button to change them. This button also turns off the remote if you press it twice. Then another set of 4 LEDs which indicate the sync status, and the button to pair it. The controller is truly universal. It has 4 modes and each one can save a different device. It is compatible with the Switch, but also with Windows, iOS and Android. These 3 with X input, for which you have 2 slots. And finally, it has a direct input mode if for some strange reason you want to use that protocol.
I think it is a first-class implementation. Someone finally focuses on X input, leaving direct input as a legacy protocol. This way, you can use it on more devices, and it works with Bluetooth and, except on iOS, also connected by USB, in case you want less latency.
The button with the gear is the main access to all the additional features we're going to see in the following sections, but as an example, let's check the general ones. Pressing it and select together resets all the functions to their default mode. The gear button plus the mode button activates Pro mode, which is simply a way of saying that all the changes are saved after the controller is powered off, or reset. And if you press the gear and up and down on the DPad, you increase or decrease the intensity of the controller's vibration. The best part is that with every change you make, the controller responds with vibrations to indicate they were applied. It is an excellent user feedback and an incredible display of good user experience. The only issue it has is that there is no phone clip compatible with the controller. Now, let's start the test as usual with the analog sticks and buttons. The biggest bet of the controller is that it uses Hall effect technology. It's not new, but Gulikit has perfected it to a degree where they have multiple patents around it. But what difference does it make? To begin, the sticks feel very good. They are very smooth, even more than those on first-party controllers. They don't have any kind of mechanical feeling when changing direction. The travel is long, the same as in the Xbox, Switch Pro or PlayStation 5 controllers. They are concave and have very good grip, with rubber on top and a texture made of lines. If you want even more travel, they sell as an accessory a package with longer sticks. 2 the same as the original ones, and 4 with different lengths. The texture of these changes a bit and it's more like the Xbox ones. It is a great option if you want even more precision. In use, the sticks have 2 modes. The first supposedly simulates a normal stick. This means it has a small dead zone on the lower part. In the saturation test, it stands out too much, with a jump from 0 to 15%. At least, the dead zone disappears once you're in motion. That is, it does not come up when changing direction, so using it is rather like regular sticks. But when filling the figure, the left stick left 4 small blank spaces. The second one is a no dead zone mode, which you can switch by pressing the settings button and the capture button. In this mode, that 15% dead zone disappears, and the saturation is perfectly linear. Here it was much easier to fill the figure because you have perfect control. The sticks detect even the smallest move. I just don't understand why this is not the default mode. Personally, it worked much better for me. We tried them first with Call of Duty Mobile, and luckily, this is one of those controllers smart enough to register themselves as an Xbox wireless controller. So it has native support in both this game and Apex Legends. In these games and Fortnite, the no dead zone mode works much better. To close, the stick has a very small dead zone at the end of the travel, but barely noticeable, and it does not affect the gameplay. In the circularity test, we had one of the lowest error rates, with less than 1%. Something to know is that when changing mode, the sticks can lose the calibration, but it's a matter of pressing left on the D-pad, L, R and A to calibrate them again. Another feature is to change the sensitivity of the sticks. This is done by pressing the gear button and the lever you want to change. There are 3 settings: the default, one that increases the sensitivity to 150%, which is reflected in a square figure instead of the circle, and the last one that only saturates 50%. They might work as sniper modes, but without a dedicated button to activate them, it is not that easy to use. And it worked perfectly with Mantis, which is the ideal solution for any game with no controller support. We used it in PUBG Mobile, and it took us all the way to the chicken dinner. There are some adjustments we made in Mantis, but after changing them, the experience was very close to a native controller. Let's now move to the R2 and L2 buttons, which, as we said before, are analog. The throw is very smooth, more than the Xbox, with a very similar distance. They are perfectly linear, with no dead zones on the bottom, and a very small one at the top. Small enough that it doesn't affect while gaming. In car games, they are perfect to regulate acceleration and braking. They also have an additional mode. If you press the gear button and left on the D-pad for L2 or right for R2, you increase the sensitivity to the point where it goes to 100% when you barely touch it. It basically turns it into a digital button. Just don't expect the trouble to lock like in the Elite 2 controller. The last trick regarding the sticks, well, at least when aiming, is a feature they called Motion Sense Aim. The idea is to replicate the functionality of the Switch Pro controller, where you can aim with the right stick for large moves or the gyroscope for precise adjustments, obviously on any platform. You activate it with the gear button plus L or L2 depending on which one you will use to aim. It has 3 sensitivities depending on how many times you press it, or until you turn it off again. Then, the movements of the gyroscopes are translated to the right stick. If you try it in the stick test, it doesn't seem to do a very good job, but when using it in games, it feels a lot better. But truth be told, it's far from the native implementation on Switch games.
I have no doubt that in the mode without the dead zone, they are the best sticks I have ever used for shooters. They are simply perfect. They can detect from the smallest movement to full pressure. Seriously, it's a significant jump compared to any other controller.
We turn now to the D-pad, which feels more like the one on the Switch Pro controller than the micro switch one of the Xbox, but I think it's better than both. It's concave, so your finger will rest better, and although the members are a bit stiff, it works perfectly. In the direction test, it's possible to make diagonals without pressing both directions. But what happened by accident? It is easy to mark the 4 cardinal points and make diagonals only when you want a diagonal. Very good. And it also works well for making sequences. The transfer between directions is clear and easy to press. Testing with Street Fighter, everything worked out the first time. No learning curve required. It's not identical to the ones that 8-bit do use, but almost as good. The front buttons use an increasingly common design, with transparent plastic and the letters in the background. When pressed, they have medium travel, with a tactile sensation somewhat strange. Gulikit says it uses a mechanical membrane, which you can see is different. They feel a little harder than normal, and they come back up quick. Weird, but not in a bad way. And they work perfectly as you would expect. They also have their set of additional functions. If you press the gear button with any other, the turbo mode is activated. And if you press it again, the button is kept pressed automatically in turbo mode. Quite comfortable for some shooters. The only buttons that doesn't have this mode are L and L2. You can also change the button layout, from Nintendo's BAYX to Xbox ABXY. For this, simply press the gear button and the +1. Then the positions are changed in case it fits you better for what you're playing. They even sell the buttons in reverse order if you really want to stick to the second mode. The controller's last trick, which it has a special button for it, is called Autopilot Game, or APG. It's an autopilot mode that records everything you do with the controller for up to 10 minutes, and replays it when you press the button again. It's like recording macros, but a bit more complex, because it also saves the timing between presses. I don't think it's a useful feature, but you can save the sequence to a file on the PC and share it. Maybe as a way to share speedruns, but I don't know, it's only an interesting feature.
Okay, we already know that it works perfectly as a controller, and that in Android it has no problems. But how does it work on other platforms? Mainly on Switch, because with the additional features, Gulikit positions it as a complete replacement for the Switch Pro controller.
And unlike many of the other Switch-compatible controllers we have seen, this one does have all the functions you need. You pair it as a regular Pro controller, and since it stores the Switch separately, you can switch between devices. Second, it has all the buttons you need, even home and screenshot. Third, already paired, you can use it to turn on the Switch. Just press and hold the home button, and it turns on both the controller and the Switch, as long as it is in Switch mode. It's the first controller we had tested that can do that. Fourth, the gyroscope works perfectly. As with the official controller, you have no problem using it on compatible games. And to close with a flourish, something that I did not expect, it has an amiibo reader. I really had no idea it had the feature, and it works as expected. You put your amiibo on the controller, and it reads it with no issues. It has the original functionality plus Gulikit's excellent analog sticks. On the rest of the supported platforms, there is not much to say. In iOS, as always, it works perfect in all the games with controller support. We tested it with Genshin Impact and with xCloud, and it's perfect. On Windows the same. By using Xinput, it has no issues working with Xbox, xCloud, Epic and Steam titles. Be sure it will work on all games. The only additional thing to mention is that you can use it to update the firmware. It's not complicated. You must connect it via USB. Then press the autopilot button and A, until it appears as a drive. Then copy the firmware file. This is also the process to get the recorded sequence files out. Finally, let's check the official price, which is $70. But I bought it for a little less in the official AliExpress Gulikit store, with shipping and the additional sticks included, so it's easy to get it below the official price. This puts it in a middle price range, on the same category as the Switch Pro, Xbox and PS5 DualSense controllers. So for its price, the Gulikit KingKong Pro 2 is well worth it. It's a top-notch controller with better stick technology, and with additional features that help. An excellent option for those looking for a universal controller that doesn't cost more, but performs better than the competition.
Truth be told, if you're looking for a Pro controller for the Switch, forget the original. This one is better. But if you want one for Android or Windows, you might consider the PS5 DualSense. It includes additional features only available on that controller, so click this video to check its review. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And remember, retro games, modern technology, zero to tech.